Well, good morning, folks. It's the real Captain Kirk here. It is the 17th of May, 2021. Hope you had a wonderful weekend. Real quick recap here of last week on a retail calendar ending Saturday, the 15th. Here in the U.S., about 0.6 degrees colder than a year ago. Coldest in 32 years, so pretty cold, much below average. 21% drier, driest in 8 years. 11th driest in 36. Up in Canada, a bit warmer versus last year. Driest in 36 years, so kind of a dry theme here in North America. Europe, 2.1 warmer than last year, warmest in 3 years, so wettest in 5. Russia on the warm side, 1.9 warmer than last year, warmest in 11 years. China also warmed up, warmest in 3. Australia, 2.7 warmer than last year, wet for sure. India is getting hit by a typhoon here, 1.5 degrees, coldest in 22 years. So a cool wet trend hitting the southwest part of India. Temperature maps and preset maps versus average are inset left there. Looking at spring to date here across the U.S. here, so this is March through May, and part of this is forecast here for the next couple weeks. But so far here for spring in the U.S., max temps a little bit warmer than last year, warmest in 9 years, 6th warmest in 36 years. So it's been an up and down spring for sure, but for the U.S. overall, an above average spring for sure. Rainfall way down, 16% less than a year ago, least in 9 years. So very, very dry on a national scale, below average, and snowfall is pretty anemic, 25% less than a year ago. Least in 11 years, second least in 36 years. So very little snow, if any, here so far this spring. Looks like we're done with snow. NOAA officially ended La Nina, but that's a little misleading here. This big map here, ocean temperatures versus last year. So still a much, much colder Pacific than we had a year ago. So obviously the weather pattern is very different in theory than we've had a year ago. So it's definitely not El Nino. It's going to remain in the slightly negative territory here for the ENSO regions. Map inset left is temperature trends versus average. So seasonable cool ocean temperatures. Again, just expecting a neutral phase to a slightly cold phase here for the rest of the year. Even a weak La Nina possible again later this fall. Drought conditions here in the U.S. is the most in 8 years. So 61% of the country is still in D0, D4 phases, meaning dry to drought phases. That's the most since 2013. Average this time of year would be about 43% of the country. So we're still dealing with quite a bit of drought. Again, more comparable to 2002 and 2013 at this point in the season. Looking at this week here, the third week of May here, week ending 23 May, 1.9 degrees warmer than last year. This makes it the warmest third week here in 25 years. So second warmest in 36 years. So a heat wave hitting the Midwest, Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, Northeast here. We're going to see some 80s, could see some 90s in the southern part of the Northeast here. 45% drier than a year ago, driest in 7 years, 15th driest in 36 years. So looks like a lot of rain there, pretty much just confined to the south central U.S. North central U.S. needs it, but a lot of that's going to be spotty thunderstorms, hit or miss. So you either get it or you don't, but below average overall national rainfall. Looking at the week here before Memorial Day, hard to believe here. 2.4 degrees cooler than last year, coolest in 4 years, 14th warmest in 36 years, so above average on that front. Precip, 46% drier versus last year, so driest in 16 years, 4th driest in 36 years, so much below average on that front. Again, we'll see about that. Every time the models try to bring rain into the north central U.S., it tends to dry up and not be as heavy as projected. So again, when you're in a dry to drought phase, it just tends to get drier and drier as opposed to excessively heavy rainfall here. If we look at the world aggregate here for the 2-week period here, again, warm eastern U.S., we'd say cooler in western Canada and western U.S., cool in Europe, hot there in Moscow, southwest Russia, mixed bag down in Australia, and pretty hot down in Brazil. Preset maps versus average. With that, folks, we hope you have a great week, and we will be back here this time next week.